So without further ado, I'll introduce Dr. Tim Kitchen. He's Adobe's Senior Education Specialist for Asia Pacific. And in this webinar, Tim will be talking about the Spark suite of free digital technology tools for creativity. So I'll let you take it away. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Nathan. It's great to be back involved with Digital Learning and Teaching Victoria, especially after a couple of webinars that I ran earlier during the height of the COVID isolation period. So it's nice to reconnect with you guys again. I have a strong heart for Digital Learning and Teaching Victoria because I was their very first vice president when they first started not that long ago. And so it's been great to see how they've developed over that period of time. Now, we are recording different chapters, and there are a number of people who are with us live at the moment from around Victoria and also from Northern Territory too. So welcome Sue and her girls who have joined us from different parts of the country, which is terrific. I'm just going to share my screen here, and what you should be able to see any second now is a different holding slide, but it gives you the title and gives you a bit more information about myself. My Twitter handle there, I'll just get this into full screen mode so you can see it. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's @TimKitchen. And my journal is timkitchen.net if you would like to follow along with things that happen in the world of Adobe in education. But what I'd like to do first is actually find out a bit more about you guys and who I'm actually referring to and talking to. So what you can see in front of you now is a whole lot of Adobe applications, what we collectively call the Creative Cloud. These are applications that are available in every Victorian secondary school and most Catholic and independent schools, particularly in the secondary areas and in some primary schools and a lot of junior schools in Catholic and independent schools. I'd like to know what familiarity and what experience you have had with any of these tools. I'm going to highlight a couple of them, and then I'd like you to give me a number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in the chat. So go to the chat now and get ready to put a number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 when I highlight an app. And let's start with the most popular of the Adobe tools, Photoshop. 1, 2, 3, or 5. 1, no experience with it. 5, practically an expert. We've got a 1 from Mel. We've got a 5 from Daryl. Well done, Daryl. A 5 from David. Keep going, folks. I know there's more than 3 people watching this. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. The chat pod's on the top right-hand corner. And then put in your response. Just want to get an idea of what you guys have had in terms of Adobe experience before. Really? Only 3 people are going to go into the chat pod? My goodness. Unless I've got an issue here. Oh no, I've got an issue here. Sorry, folks. I seem to have not scrolled myself. Thank you. I'm just scrolling it myself, and we've got 4s and 1s, lots of 1s, a few 4s, and we've got, yeah, quite a few 1s actually, which is interesting. All right, good. Let's go to a different app here. Acrobat, in terms of PDF manipulation and in terms of PDF creation. We've got a 4 from Nathan, 3 from Daryl, 3s and 3s and 4s and 2s and 1s and 4s and 3s. I'm using an iPad to monitor this, so that's why I'm needing to scroll up. The iPad doesn't seem to want to scroll for me automatically. Okay, that gives me an idea. And what about Premiere Rush, which is a relatively new video editing application for the mobile devices and the laptop and desktop. We've got 1 from Joy, 1 from Marika, and 0. I don't know if 0 was part of that continuum of numbers, but that's okay. I get the idea. Lots of 1s. It's interesting. Not many on the Rush. Now, I reckon, Nathan, it's worth taking a note of that for maybe another session later in the year about Rush, because Rush has become one of the most popular Adobe apps for educators and teachers. I've noticed I'm working more with Rush now than I am with probably even Spark in some regards. All right, speaking of Spark, any of the Spark apps at all, Spark Post, Spark Video, or Spark Page, just get a sense of the room. We've got 1s and 1s and 1s and 1s, and we've got a 2 from Daryl, 2 from Nadia, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Lots of 1s and a 3 from Andy. So most of you are brand new to Spark. It's interesting. I'll just throw one more in here, and this is Premiere Pro, a very high-end professional video editing tool from Adobe. I just want to get a sense if there's any professional multimedia people in the room, mainly lots of 1s and 2s. Oh, 5 from Nadia. Nadia, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's great to see we've got a mix there. So we've got a couple of people who use our tools at a very high level. Like Premiere Pro is incredibly high level, not for most teachers. That's why we created Premiere Rush. But, and Naja's saying, yes, J for January. Naja, good. Thanks, Naja. All right, so that gives me a sense of who I'm working with. What I'd like to do now is just stop sharing my screen. I want to play a quick video that introduces you to Adobe Spark. The Spark tools, we created them to introduce people to the world of digital literacy, to introduce teachers and students to the world of Adobe. They're not high-end professional tools, and I've used Character Animator and Premiere Pro to put this little video together that gives you an overview of what is Adobe Spark.
Oh, hello everyone. It's Rob the Robot here from Adobe, and I've been asked to tell you about the amazing free Adobe Spark apps and how they are making such a positive difference to classrooms at all levels and in most areas of the curriculum all over the world. There are 3 Spark apps. Spark Post for making digital posters and banners in seconds. Spark Video for making videos in minutes. And Spark Page, which helps you to make and hosts web pages also in minutes. Adobe Spark is 3 separate iOS apps for the iPad and iPhone, and also available on your internet browser via spark.adobe.com for those who don't have iOS devices. Newsflash! It looks like Spark Post is now also available on Android. The aim of Adobe Spark is to help people make content quickly without having to worry too much about design. The Spark apps are used by students and teachers in primary schools, secondary schools, and even in higher education. They are a very engaging way for teachers to share ideas, tell stories, and promote key curriculum concepts. They're also a wonderful tool for students to construct their learning and share their understandings in a dynamic and creative format. Find out more about the benefits of Adobe Spark in education via spark.adobe.com/edu. Try Adobe Spark today. You're sure to love it.
Thanks, Rob. It's always good to have Rob the Robot helping us learn a few new things. That is the introduction to our session today on Spark. We're going to stop this chapter now and just jump to the chat pod to see if there's any questions, initial questions, any comments, initial comments. And then we're going to go into another chapter where we're going to introduce you to Spark Post, and we're going to get you to actually create something. If you're watching the recordings of this, you can still work with me and you can still create something. If you're with us live, and we've got 22 people that are live at the moment, one of you is going to receive a special prize at the end of this. So that's your incentive. And the prize is an Adobe pen and stylus. And if that's not big enough, a sticker as well. I'm going to post these out to the person who sends me the first creation, but I'm going to give you a criteria, and it all has to be created with Spark, and we'll find out a bit about that in the next chapter. So this chapter is about to finish, and we'll be back very, very soon. Well, folks, we are up to the second chapter now. I'm going to ask Nathan if he doesn't mind to keep a record of which chapter numbers we're up to too, because I often forget. And we've just done an introduction to Spark, and so we know that it's a tool that's available for iOS. Part of it's on Android, but it's also a browser-based tool. So if you want to access the Spark tools to create posters, to create videos, or to create web pages, you can do that just on your browser, or you can do that through your iOS, your iPad, or your iPhone through a specific little apps. One's called Spark Page, one's called Spark Video, and one's called Spark Post. They're the 3 different iOS apps, and Spark Post is also available on Android. But because most people will be accessing Spark most likely on a browser, that's what we're going to do today. And those who are watching the recording, or those who are with us live, I want you to open up a separate window so that on your browser you can actually work with me. And I'm going to do that right now myself. I'm going to use Chrome as my preferred browser. I highly recommend you don't use Internet Explorer. I'm just jumping into a Chrome browser now. And once you're into your browser, now this will work for Firefox, it'll work on Safari, it'll work on Edge. It just doesn't work very well on Internet Explorer, so try to avoid that. Type in at the very top in the address bar section, type in spark.adobe.com. Spark.adobe.com. And I'm going to grab that URL and I'm going to put it straight into the chat pod, just in case anyone's having some issues, and they can then just click the link in the chat pod and that'll open up Spark. And it's opened up for me straight away, which is not what I wanted. I'm going to sign out because I want to go through the sign in process with you. So when you first go into it, you'll get a little opening page, something like this. And then at the top right-hand corner, it'll say sign in. When you click the sign in button, you'll notice there's a few ways of signing in. For many of you, you'll be able to just go log in with your school account. If you're with the Victorian Department of Education, and you're a secondary school teacher, you will have a Creative Cloud account assigned to your normal Victorian Department of Education email address. If you're a primary teacher in the department, you may or may not have. I'm not quite sure. It's worth trying. If you're an independent system, you're very likely to have it. If you're in the Catholic system, you're also very likely to have one. But if not, if by some chance that's just not working for you, look at all the other options. You could create an Adobe ID for free. Sign up with email, create an Adobe ID and use that to access all the Spark tools. You could access through your Apple account or through your Facebook account or through your Google account. They will give you the free versions of Spark. This one here will give you the full version of Spark, and it's probably the best way to do it. And when you're working with students who are under 13, they have to go through this way because it goes through their normal school federated ID login system, as opposed to going through Google, Facebook, and Apple and Adobe, where you do need to be 13 or higher to access through that account. So please test this one out first. I'm going to do that myself. I'm going to go to log in with your school account, and I'm going to put in my Adobe email address because it's just as if I was putting in my school email address. I'm going to click continue. And I've got two accounts. I've got a personal one, and there's my company school account. I'm going to click onto that one. And any second now, it's going to open up my Adobe Federated ID system. And if you're doing this with me, it'll hopefully open up your school Federated ID system. And if you're a secondary teacher in the Victorian Department of Education and this isn't working for you, then have a chat with your IT guys as to why that's the case, because it should be well and truly set up by now. The department have actually given access to the Creative Cloud to all their secondary schools, and that has been the case since almost 12 months now. In fact, I think it's just about 12 months when they switched it over. So that's 12 months that you've had access to Adobe stuff that you really should be getting to know, because it's been a huge investment from the government into all the secondary schools. So hopefully you've got access to Spark, and if it's the first time you've accessed, you'll probably get some sort of marketing or some sort of template. Maybe close that, because what you're looking for is a page that has this tool here called Create a Project. You're looking for this button, Create a Project. I think for the first time, that button actually appears on the right-hand side, but look for it. If it's on the right, doesn't matter. Just click on it and you'll find that's where you can work on getting access to a whole lot of different ways of different projects. I'm just looking at the chat now, and David's went through my Google, and that worked for you, so that's great. So through your Google, you won't get the full access to Spark, but you'll get most of it, which is fine. And that's how a lot of schools are doing it. If they're a Google Classroom school, they can most likely access it that way, and their students can access it that way, and they won't need to lie about their age or anything like that, because Google acts like a federated ID system for that school. So we can create flyers, we can create Instagram stories, Instagram posts, Facebook posts, and collages. And I'm going to skip down to branded graphics and custom sized graphics. All of those are Spark Post. All of them are like opening up a quick desktop publishing tool on your browser and creating something really simple, really quick, and we'll do that again in a minute. If you go to web page, you're opening up Spark Page, and it's a way of creating a web page. It's a way of presenting something for the whole world to see, or just the person next to you. And we'll host that. Adobe will host that for you for free. There's no cost involved in the Spark tools. They're totally free. And then you've got video, which is Spark Video. And what that does It allows you to create a video in a few minutes without needing to know anything about video production. You can create an awesome video. So that is what Spark basically is. And what we're going to do first is we're going to create a flyer, but I'm going to give you a topic. And to do that, first of all, click on the word flyer so that we can get the process started. It's just going to load that up. And while that's loading, I'm just going to jump into another site here. This is some resources for us to use. And this is going to be your Spark challenge. In order to get the pen, to get the stylus posted out to you, you need to create a web page that includes a video and a poster. And we're going to do this together. And the first one to get it published in the chat pod will get the prize. The topic is hand hygiene. Very topical at the moment. And the resources I'm giving you are down here in this link, timkitchen.net/wash-hands. Now I'm going to click on that link now. I'm going to grab that URL and I'm going to put it straight into the chat pod so that you guys get instant access to it. And if you click on that link now, it'll take you to a web page that has a bunch of images and some text. And we're going to use these images and this text to help create a poster, a video, and a web page. And that's how we're going to do this one together. So we're going to start with the poster. And the poster is basically going to say something along the lines of, one of the best ways to keep yourself and others healthy is to keep your hands clean. And we're going to use this picture. So if you can find that picture and do a right click on it, a 2-finger on your trackpad or a right click on your mouse, and save that picture. And if you don't know how to do that, you could do a screen grab, whatever way, just get access to that picture. And I'm going to put it onto my desktop for the moment. I'm going to create a folder on my desktop. I'm going to call it Washing Hands. That'll do, just washing hands. This will be my first asset. So now that I've saved that picture, I'm now going to jump back to my Chrome browser. And I want to bring this picture into the poster. It's going to be the main image for this poster. I've activated the flyer section within Spark Post. You can see on the top left-hand corner, it's now called Spark Post. On the right-hand side, there's a button called Add. And when I click on that Add button, I could add text, photos, icons, logos. If I go to Photos, it brings up this panel, which allows me to upload a photo and bring it into my poster. Or I could find free photos, which is a great way of sourcing royalty-free images through Unsplash and Pixabay, two incredible sources of royalty-free images. The reason why we put that in is if you upload a photo that you've downloaded, say from Google, you could be breaking copyright. The images that I'm allowing you to use here through my site, I've created myself through Adobe Fresco, just drawn them with an Apple iPad and an Apple Pencil. And it's a free drawing app called Adobe Fresco. So I'm giving you access to these images because I've created them, I own them, I'm happy to share them with you. But that's not the case with most images. If you go to Google Images and download an image, you're actually breaching copyright 90% of the time. So just be careful when you upload photos. Just be careful that you do own the rights to them, or you've created them, or someone who has created them has allowed you to do that. So right now I'm going to go to Upload Photo, and I'm going to go and find that folder, Washing Hands, and inside that folder is that image, and I'm going to click Open, and that image is asking me, do I want to pin it to the background or do I want it to move freely? I'm thinking move freely, and now that image should load onto my page any second now. 3, 2, 1, bang, there it is. And I could scale that, make it a little bit bigger, just with those little handles that are on each of the corners. I can move it around. I can even rotate it if I wanted, just slightly. I'm going to center it right to the middle of my stage. Now that I've got my image in there, I just want to show you one more thing while you're trying to get your image in, if you haven't already. I'm going to show you how to add a royalty-free image. If I go to Add again and go Photo, I'm going to go to Find Free Photos. If I do a search for Washing Hands, it's now searching either, what is it searching, Unsplash or Pixabay. Clicking that little arrow tells me where it's searching. And you can see in Unsplash, and Nathan, we've got someone who's opened up their camera. If you wouldn't mind just muting them, that'd be great. And there's a whole lot of royalty-free images here, which I could grab. I could go to Pixabay, And there's a bunch of other images there. I'm going to grab this first. I'll just grab this one here, that'll do. So if I click on that picture, I can make that move freely as well. And then that picture is now loading into my poster. So I've now got an image that I created on Fresco that I've given you, and you've accessed that. And now we've got a royalty-free image from Unsplash or Pixabay down into that part of the poster. Let's add some text now. If we go to the top right-hand corner again where it says Add, I'm going to go to Text. And I'm going to go and find that text from that resource that I shared with you in the chat pod. And I'm just going to quickly select all of that text, copy it, and then add my text and paste it and click Done. So now that the text is appearing on the poster, I can now reorganize different elements so that it kind of looks all right. Not brilliant, but all right. One of the things I love about the text tool in Spark Post is when I click on it, I can go to all these tools here on the right-hand side, and the bottom one called Style is my favorite. When I click on that, see that little dot there? When I click and turn that dot around the circle, I'm getting lots of ideas and inspiration on how I might want to present the text. And if I'm happy with the font, but I'm not happy with, say, the shape that's behind it, I can go over to my Shape tool and click on the Shape tool. And the very first Shape tool, if I scroll up, the very first Shape tool gets rid of the shape. Or I could bring in other shapes or other different sorts of artwork around the text. But I'm actually quite happy to get rid of that. And although I don't mind that either. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to stick with that. Although I've noticed now that the white isn't really standing out. So I'm going to jump up to the color tool on the right-hand side and have a play with the different colors, just so I get the experience that I'm looking for. And there's a whole range of color palettes I could choose from as well. So I'm pretty happy with what I've got so far. I might just enlarge the text a little bit. And hopefully you're happy with what you've done. Hopefully by now you've got an image, and hopefully it's this image here, into your poster, and you've got some text in there. I want to show you one more thing before we finalize this poster and export it out. If I click away from any image or any text and jump into this button here called Design, which is below the Templates button, I love this design tool because what I can do, I can click these different designs that graphic artists have made for us and these little templates, and I can get, again, more inspiration, different ideas, different ways of presenting the same assets, but in different ways. And some of them work and some of them don't work at all. And if I'm not happy with any of those, I can go up to the top center where it says Undo and just keep undoing until I get back to one that kind of worked for me. And that one's not bad, quite like that. It's going to reposition my top image. So now that you've got some images and text into your poster, let's go ahead and download it. A couple of options here. I could go to the top right-hand corner where it says download, click on the download button. I could download it as a PNG file, as a JPEG file, or as a PDF file. That I think only works on Chrome. You might find that some of those options don't work on every browser. I'm going to make this a JPEG file, and I'm going to start the downloading process. It's now downloading it, and if I go to my Finder and just open up my Downloads directory, there it is, sitting up here called My Post. It's my 7th post since I cleared my downloads, obviously. I'm going to open this up in something like Apple's Preview, and there it is. There's my poster as a JPEG image, ready for me to share in any way I want to. But let me show you another way of doing this too. If I wanted to, rather than download it, let me share it. But before I do, don't want to skip over this button. This is quite cool. This button here next to the download button, this allows me to invite someone else to collaborate with me. So I could put in the email address of someone else who I know, who I want to work with, and then they will get an invitation to actually collaborate with me on my poster, or collaborate with me on my video, or collaborate with me on my web page. It's a great tool to be aware of. That's the invitation and the sharing tool. But let me go into the share option here because I want to publish this. So if I go to publish, it's now generating a hyperlink. It's now sending what I've created, and I could send it to Facebook, to Twitter, to Google Classrooms. I could email it out to someone, but if I click on link, it's now going to generate a hyperlink that I can put into the chat pod so you can see what I've just created, or into my learning management system, or into whatever system it is that I go ahead and share my work with. Any second now, it's going to be there in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on, internet, don't fail me now. You can do this. There we go, beautiful. I'm going to copy that URL. I'm going to jump straight to the chat pod, and I'm going to bring it in. And now, if you click on that link in the chat pod, those 26 of you who are with us live, you will see what I've just created as another way of sharing what you've done. So what we've done now is we've created a poster with Spark Post, and I've shared it as a JPEG image, and I've also shared it as a URL in the cloud-based system and shared it with you. Hopefully you've also created a poster about washing your hands and how important that is. In the next chapter, we're going to create a video, and we're going to, well, not the whole video, we're going to start creating a video using some of these assets about hand hygiene. And then in our final chapter, well, one of our final chapters, we're going to bring in the poster and the video into a web page that we can share with the whole world or with just the person next to you. And with all of that in mind, let's stop this chapter now and go to the chat pod to see if there's any questions. All right, folks, we're up to chapter 3 of this DLTV session on Adobe Spark. We've just created our own Spark post, and for many who are with us live, it's their first ever Spark post, which is really cool. And I noticed that Laura has already posted and shared, and I'm going to embarrass Laura here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it up and let's see what she has created, which is pretty awesome. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. Lucky I'm not sharing, because at the moment, Laura, it's just a black screen. I'm not sure what's happened there, unless it's a minimalist poster that you're trying to impress. But something went wrong in the upload process there. You might just want to recheck that one there. So I'm not going to share Laura's. I should have checked that before I started the recording. All right, folks, we're going to jump into Spark Video now, and we're going to create a little video, or at least the start of a little video about washing our hands. So I'm going to jump back to my Chrome browser. Let me share my screen. There's my poster. And to get into another section of Spark, up in the top left-hand corner, the SP button, if you click on the SP logo, it'll save what you've just been doing, and then it'll take you into your project directory, I suppose we could call it. And you can see under Tim's home, that's me, there's projects. And you can see a whole bunch of projects here. If I scroll through some of these, a whole stack of them that I've been doing. Most of them are like demos, like what I've been doing now. But I do have some important ones here. So I've created folders for my really important Spark projects. One's called online events. In fact, if I jump into that now, we can get a sense of, this is a Spark page, a web page. 4.4 thousand teachers have actually looked at that. This is another Spark page. 413 teachers have looked at that. And this one is about our summit coming up in September. And I've already got 356. I only just launched this a week or so ago. We've got 356 teachers who have already looked at that. So I'm getting this analytics already from my important Spark pages, because I've published them and I've shared them out, and I'm getting a sense of how many people are looking at them. Let's create a video now. What I'm going to do is go back to that create a project button at the top left-hand corner and skip through down to where it says video. Every great story starts somewhere. Tell us about your idea or title. You can always change it later. I'm just going to put in washing hands. It doesn't really matter what you put at this point in time, because it makes no difference to the video. This is important though. What's happened here is there's a bunch of genres of storytelling. How to tell what's happened, how to promote an idea, how to follow a hero's journey. If you click any one of these, if you pick any one of these, it creates a scaffold for you and how to tell a story in a particular way. And that's really helpful if you're teaching storytelling in different genres of storytelling. But for the sake of this webinar, we're going to avoid the scaffold. It's going to jump into a normal, simple, basic template by going start from scratch. And any second now that will open up. And I think what will happen first, it'll bring up a tutorial, just in case you've forgotten what I've taught you, which is doubtful because I'm such a good teacher. What could happen is you might just want to watch the tutorial that'll come up just to remind you of some of the things. But I'm going to close that tutorial as soon as it opens up. By the way, if you're using the iOS version on your iPad or your phone, there's none of this waiting. There's none of this spinning wheel stuff because it's not bandwidth dependent. It's not internet dependent. It just works. It's an app, so it just goes on straight away. So I actually prefer to use my iPad when I'm creating Spark videos. Welcome here. This is the tutorial. I'm going to close that. You don't need that. You've got me. And this is our video making environment. It is so simple. It's just a handful of buttons. It's nothing like Premiere Pro. Certainly nothing like even Premiere Rush, which is a lot more complicated. But this is probably all most teachers and students really need, especially in primary schools, to create video content. Of course, there are limitations to this, and so you might want to move up to Premiere Rush at some point if you find this too limiting, but let's see how you go. I'm going to start with a voiceover. In fact, to do this properly, I'm actually going to disconnect my headset now so that you can hear back what's going on, which means I'm going to lose a bit of quality of my audio, but you'll still get a sense of how this works. No, you've lost a little bit of quality, but hopefully you can still hear me okay. I'm going to start with a voiceover. Let's just jump back to my resources, which are sitting somewhere. Here they are. And I'm going to start with the same picture again. I'm going to say one of the best ways to keep yourself and others healthy is to keep your hands clean. So I'm going to use that as my dialogue in my first voiceover. In fact, to help me remind what I'm going to say, I'm going to make this window a bit smaller and move it over to the side. And I'm going to make my Spark window on my Chrome browser a bit smaller too. So I've got my Chrome browser on the left and I've got my Firefox browser with my resources on the right, just to help me manage this. Let's start with the first voiceover. See that red dot with the microphone symbol? When you click on that, sometimes it gives you a little button that says allow microphone. So click on allow and then it'll activate the microphone. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes it says you need to go into the settings and allow your microphone. That sometimes happens with Chrome. You usually only have to do that once and then you're fine from there on. I'm going to start my first voiceover. I need to actually hold it down, and my advice to you is that you click and hold it down for about a second, say the voiceover, keep holding it down for a second, then let go. Something like this. Again. One of the best ways to keep yourself and others healthy is to keep your hands clean. Now, if I hit the play button next to that, we should turn the volume up. We should be able to hear not just my voiceover, but you should be able to hear some music in the background too. One of the best ways to keep yourself and others healthy is to keep your hands clean. Now that music was okay, but if I go up to the top right-hand corner, you'll see there's a little music symbol. If I click on that, I can then choose a whole range of royalty-free music to use for my story. And can I recommend on the browser version that you don't just click any of these words, because when you do, that will load the song and that takes a bit of time. Instead, click the little play button next to the word, and that gives you a preview of the song before you commit to it in a sense. You can always change it later. That'll do. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to click on Places I've Been, and that music is now loading into my story. And when that spinning wheel stops and this play button here turns white, then I know it's loaded and I can preview it. Any second now. 3, 2, 1. Come on, internet. Come on, you can do it. This is why you don't press the button, because it does take a little bit of time. If you're on the iPad or the iPhone, there's no waiting at all. Just bang, you can change. You can add your song straight away. Come on. He's running a little bit slow tonight. I think all the teenagers have come back from school and they're all watching Netflix or YouTube. So the whole internet is slowing down a bit, but that's all right. We'll get there eventually, won't we? Come on. Any second now. All right, I'm going to keep moving anyway, just to save time. I'm going to try and add that image into the story to see if this will work. See that plus symbol in the middle of the stage? Here we go. It's now working. So if it hit that little plus symbol in the middle of the stage, it allows me to add video content, text, photos, or icons. In this case, I want to grab a photo. So I'm going to click on photo, and I'm going to upload that exact same photo that I used in my post. I'm going to bring that into the stage of my video. There it is. And now if I hit the play button.
One of the best ways to keep yourself and others healthy is to keep your hands clean.
I'm thinking I need some text into here as well. So if I click on the little plus symbol again in the middle of the stage, I can go to text and I can type in something like keep hands clean. And I'm not particularly happy with that font, nor am I happy with the fact that it's over the top of the image. So one thing I'm going to do is jump up to my themes, and it's defaulting to my Adobe themes, which are fine. But if I scroll down, I've got a bunch of other free themes that I could use. As soon as I change a theme, it's going to change it for the whole video. So it's a theme for the whole story. And now I've got a different font, and I can choose a different color in the background, can I? Or is the picture so big that it's taking over the background? Yeah, it is a bit. I might resize my picture a little bit. If I click on the picture, there's a little edit tool, and that allows me to make the picture a bit smaller. And now I can see the background color. But I'm still not happy that the text is over the top of the image. So I'm going to go to my layout option, and I can go say split screen. Let's see what that looks like. That's looking pretty good. Or I could go caption. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I'm happy with that. If I play the preview, the play button now.
One of the best ways to keep yourself and others healthy is to keep your hands clean.
Now this first section here, notice that the text animated too, which is quite cool. It goes for 8 seconds, which is fine because I've got some animated text. We've got this rule in video production called the 7-second rule, where you don't want any images on your video to be going there longer than 7 seconds. The reason for that is you start to lose the interest of your audience if you've got a stagnant image there for more than 7 seconds. So try to keep these down to about 10 seconds at the most. And if you've got some animation, then 10 seconds is fine. So I'm going to go into another section of the video now. If I go down to the bottom left-hand corner, there's a plus symbol. By clicking that, it creates a new part of my story. And now I can do another voiceover and add another image to it. I'm going to jump into my resources and let's see what we've got here. Step 1, wet your hands for 5 seconds, then turn off the tap to save the water. That's going to be my dialogue, so let me record that now. Step 1, wet your hands for 5 seconds, then turn off the tap to save water. Now I'm going to grab that image, and just like I did before, I'm going to save it, right-click, save it into my folder, and then bring it into my stage by going Photo, Upload Photo, find my new image, click Open, and that new image should appear on my stage any second now. There it is. And I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller by clicking the little edit tool that appears once it's fully loaded on the top right-hand corner, that little pen tool. Nearly there. Hasn't quite loaded the photo properly yet. Any second now. There we go. Make it a bit smaller. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to grab all of that text from my resource, copy that, and bring the text in almost like closed captions. But because it's over the top of the image, I could make the text smaller, but instead I'm going to go to my layout and change it to a split screen. Let's see what this looks like. I should have the image on one side of the screen and the text on the other. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's play the whole story so far. To play the whole story so far, I don't hit this play button. I go down to the bottom left-hand corner to this play button, by clicking that.
One of the best ways to keep yourself and others healthy is to keep your hands clean. Step 1, wet your hands for 5 seconds, then turn off the tap to save water.
And so on. And of course, if you've added any royalty-free images, at the very end of your story, you get automatically credited. All those images from Unsplash and Pixabay get automatically credited at the end of your story, which is really cool. So that is how to make a video with Spark Video. What I haven't shown you is how to add video content, because if you've got a short video that you want, maybe someone waving or actually washing hands that you filmed with your camera, as long as you've got that as a video file, you can bring it into each section and then you can trim it. You've got this little in bubble and an out bubble that you can trim just to have a few seconds of the washing hands. All of that's available to you by going in. And of course, if I create another section here, notice when you click on the add, you've got video. So I can click on video, bring in that video file, do the trimming, that becomes part of your story as well. Let's export the video now, as much as I've done so far. I know it's not totally completed, but to save time, I'm going to download it first by clicking download. This is now creating an MP4 video file out of what I've just created on my browser. Any second now, should jump into mode, and in my downloads folder will be an MP4 video. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 2.5. No, it's going the wrong way, isn't it? Here we go. Starting to make some action. 2, 1, and come on, nearly there. And of course, here we go, it's done now. So in my downloads folder should now be, it's nearly, you can see it's still loading, but you can see probably washing hands download. It's not quite there yet, but it's now generating a MP4 video file. And this video file is 618 kilobytes in size, so it's not tiny. It's, for those who are a bit more technical, it's a standard high definition at 720 pixels. So it'll look good on a big screen, it'll be fine on a small screen, and you can upload it to YouTube or to Vimeo or whichever way you want to go. But the other option is to share it. So rather than download, go to share, and notice there is an invitation button to actually invite someone to collaborate with you, which is very, very cool. I'm going to now publish this video, and I'm going to call it washing hands, give it a category, say education. I often turn off the author attribution, especially when I'm working with students under 13 or even under 18. I tend to encourage them to turn that off and keep things as private as possible. But when I click create link, what's happening now, it's generating the video, sending it to one of our video servers, and you will get a link. You'll get a hyperlink that you can then send off to your learning management system. You can embed into a Spark page, which we'll do in a minute. And you can just email to someone. I'm going to put it into the chat pod, and any second now that link will appear, and it'll go into the chat pod and you'll be able to see my video. So it's exciting because we've only got just under half an hour to go, and hopefully by now you've started building a video, you've created a post, and we're about to jump into a Spark page and put them all together. And if anyone's successfully been able to do that, even at a basic level, the prize will be yours. There's your challenge. Here we go. I've got the link. So if I copy that link now and go to the chat pod, paste it into the chat pod for those who are live, if you click on that link on the chat pod, you'll be able to see the video I just created, which is just how we can share it through the cloud. I'm going to also make a note of that link because I'll need to use it later. So let's go bring that notes into another screen. And that's the end of this particular chapter on Spark Video. So the first chapter was introductions. The second chapter was on Spark Posts. The third chapter was on Spark Video. We're about to do another chapter on Spark Page. And then we're going to do some resources so that you can have some resources to take away. Sorry to rush you, but we've only got about 25 minutes left, so we want to try and get this done reasonably quickly. But we'll see you at the next chapter very soon. Well, folks, we're about to look at Spark Page. We've already created a poster, we've created the start of a video, and we're going to bring both of those assets into a web page to publish for the whole world to see, or just the person next to you. And my challenge for those who are live, we've got 23, a few people have dropped out, but 23 people who are live. Maybe the challenge was too hard, but I'd be really impressed if you're able to keep up with me and able to actually create a Spark page that has a poster and at least part of a video into it as well. So let's get stuck into it. I'm going to share my screen and you should be able to now see my Spark page, my Spark video. Now, top left-hand corner, just to remind you, if you click on the little SP symbol, that takes you back to your directory. And if I scroll down, you can see here, I've got my washing hands video, which 4 people have looked at, thank you. And we've got my post, which 9 people have looked at, thank you. So that shows you how you can get back into them again if you want to re-edit them. The beauty is that the URL stays the same no matter how many times you edit it. So you can post that URL out and then edit to your heart's content, which is really valuable when you're creating a web page, because there'll be often times you want to make changes to it and not have to have a different URL each time. So create a project. Let's go down to web page this time, and this is going to open up Spark Page. First thing that comes up, it says add a title. So my title will be washing hands, something like that. And I'm going to put in DLTV as my subtitle just for the fun of it. It's pretty boring at the moment. It really wants some color. It wants some imagery. So that little plus symbol down the bottom of the title, that encourages you to add a photo. So when I click on photo, again, the same panel comes up. I can upload or I can find free photos, and there's lots of other ways of getting images into it as well. It's worth having a look at Adobe Stock. They're not free photos, you do license them, but if your school might even have a license for Adobe Stock. Some of the best media companies in the world are using Adobe Stock now as their stock images. Radio stations that are making apps for their radio station. TV, I'm seeing Adobe Stock being used by TV networks when I'm watching the news. It's incredible to see how Adobe Stock is becoming popular all over the world for sources of images and videos and all sorts of things now, even 3D assets and all sorts of stuff. I'm going to go and upload my first photo again. It's going to be the opening of my web page. There it is. Washing hands. Now, as I scroll up and down, you can see how the text separates slightly from the image. That's called parallax scrolling. It's a lovely effect. And as I scroll down, you can see some new tools appear. A tool to add more photos, a tool to add text, a tool to add hyperlinks, a tool to add or embed videos, a tool to put in a grid of photos, a glide show, which I'll explain in a minute, and then a split layout, a photo on one side and text on the other. Let's start by putting in the video maybe. I'm going to click on video, and I'm just going to paste now my Spark video link in there. It could be a YouTube video link, or it could be a Vimeo video link, because Spark Page will embed any video from YouTube, any video from Vimeo, and any video from Spark Video. So now that I've got that, I scroll down, you can see my videos there ready for me to play later on when I want to publish it and present it. Let's jump into some more text. I'm just going to go to my resources and move that over here so we can see it a bit better. And just going to very quickly bring in, say, step 1 again. So I'll grab that text. Or maybe this opening text here would be good. And I'm going to go to my text tool and paste it. Now that text could be a heading 1, or it could be a heading 2, or it could be just normal text. And if it's normal text, I can then highlight any of those words and click this button here to allow me to turn that word into a button, turn that word into a hyperlink. So you're getting all of that control, a fantastic multimodal text tool here. So I'm going to make that a heading 2, I think would look good for this. And let's just jump back to step 1. Grab step 1, paste it in, my little add button, grab some text, paste it in. So step 1, wet your hands, and let's bring in that photo of wetting the hands. Upload photo, it was number 2. and then bring that one in, that photo. You see it's not coming in straight away. There it is. So I've now got my text and I've got my photo. And if I click on that photo, there's various ways that those images can appear. They could be in line with the text like it currently is. I could fill the screen with that image and then add a caption if I wanted to, washing hands. Or I could go window and have that image reveal itself inside a window, which doesn't quite work for this publication. Full width, that could work. Looks quite good. But I'm thinking I might just stick with inline. And then I'm going to repeat that process again. So I'm going to find some more text as I scroll down. Step 2, apply soap. So I'm going to add that text, apply soap, and then I'm going to just quickly download that photo of applying soap. Remember, all of these photos were created with Adobe Fresco. It's a free drawing app for the iPad and the Windows Surface too. And I'm not a great drawer, so I've just been loving using Fresco to sort of teach me how to draw and sketch things out, learning new skills. Let me just bring that photo into the Spark page. There we go, apply soap, and there's my picture. Now, if I wanted to go for a split layout, let me just do that now. So I can grab another image. Let's make it this one here. I'm going to save that image. While that's saving, I'm going to grab the text of that image. Step 3, rub your palms. I'm going to put the text on this side, and I'm going to add my image, upload a photo, just like I did with the others. And now we've got a split layout, which is quite handy. Let me show you a glide show. I love the glide show. Let me just quickly grab another image. Right click, save image as. And I'm going to make this image the glide show. I'm going to upload that image about the fingers. This will become the background to my glide show. And you can see over the top of the glide show is a panel. That panel I can position on the left or in the middle or on the right. And in the middle of that panel is a plus symbol. If I click on that plus symbol, I can now have another photo gliding over the top of this picture. Or I could have some text gliding, or a hyperlink, or a video. And that's really powerful if you think about it. I'm going to bring in that video. No, if I can find that video link again. Lucky I saved it earlier. I'm going to show you how cool this is. By just pasting that video and embedding the video over the top of the image, this becomes a really powerful digital portfolio solution. This could be a student's works, and this could be a video about how they made that work. Why did they make it? What did they learn in the process of making it? What could they have done a little bit better maybe if they had more time? I mean, all of that really rich learning that you kind of just interpret happened when you're looking at the work, but to actually get evidence of it through a video, and that's the power of using video, is great. And I love seeing Spark Page being used as a digital portfolio solution in not just primary schools, in secondary schools, and even at university level and in TAFE sectors. It's really powerful. So let's say we've put everything in that we wanted to on our Spark page. Then I just jump up to where it says share. If I go to present, I can get a sense of what it's going to look like if it was published on the internet, to share it with the person next to me, for instance. And the other great thing about going into present mode is if I had a clicker, I could be clicking to different sections of this Spark page. There's my opening. I click to my next part, click to my next part. It becomes like an alternative to PowerPoint. And I've actually seen keynote presenters using Spark page as an alternative to PowerPoint, which is pretty cool. But let's jump into publish and share link. Pick a category. A little error message there for some reason. And I'm going to turn off the author attribution, create link. So this is now generating the link. As soon as the link's up, I'll post it into the chat pod. And then, Nathan, we're going to be checking very carefully to see if anyone else has done that, has kept up with me, because they will be getting the prize. There we go. I'm going to grab that link, and I'm going to go into the chat pod and bang, straight into there. So you can now see what I've just created. Now, Laura, you have given me a video link I can see, and this is the time now to publish anything else. I'm going to be sharing one more chapter, which is about resources that you can use to learn more about Spark Post and other Adobe applications. While I'm sharing that chapter, feel free to post in your links, and then just before 5 o'clock, we're going to see who's going to be the first one to have given us a Spark page with a poster, with a video, or as close as we can. So hopefully that's been helpful for you, and we'll jump into our next chapter very, very soon. Well, with DLTV, we've got 23 people who have been making posters and videos and Spark pages and putting them all together, all about washing hands. What I want to do now is just share some resources for you that will hopefully help you in the future, and especially if you're watching the recordings of this, because these will be really helpful for you as well. What I'll do first is I'm just going to bring up a QR code, and if you want to scan over that QR code, and I'm going to grab, if I can, I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm using Acrobat here, Adobe Acrobat, and I'm in a PDF, and I'm literally copying some text from my PDF because I'm gone into edit mode. One of the great things about Acrobat is that you can manipulate and do all sorts of things with PDFs. I'm going to grab that URL and put it into the chat pod, because if you want to make contact with us at Adobe and maybe be part of my email list so you can get some information once a month about things that are happening in the world of Adobe, then this is a good way to keep in touch with us and to be part of our network. So that gives you an option to use the QR code, or just go into that link, bit.ly/Adobe_contact, fill in the form, and that's how you can keep in touch with the world of Adobe. So while you're potentially doing that, let me just show you some key resources that I think will be valuable. And I'm going to do that through a video. And the video is about to start. I've made a new one, so it should be up at the top of the list. We've got lots of videos here, and there it is. So this video, no character animator, no Rob the Robot for this one. It's just me doing the voiceover, but this will be good. If you want to grab your cameras and take photos of the key resources, that'll be a good way of keeping a record of them. We do hope that you have enjoyed this professional learning event from Adobe, and that you will be able to take away a number of key resources and practical ideas that you will be able to use in your school or university. Get your smartphone ready and take photos of the following key resources. First, and probably most important, is the Adobe Education Exchange, edx.adobe.com, which now involves over 800,000 educators, sharing how they use Adobe products to enhance creativity across classrooms, lecture theatres, and learning management systems all over the world. The Adobe Education Exchange is also where you can find a wide range of free professional learning opportunities, such as the amazing array of self-paced courses and featured teaching resources. The Adobe for Academics site is directly relevant to those involved in higher education, and it features a wonderful resource by Dr. Todd Taylor called Adobe Creative Cloud Across the Curriculum, a guide for students and teachers. This features a summary of what Adobe products to choose for a range of educational purposes. helpx.adobe.com is the URL for the Adobe Help Center, a great one-stop shop of beginner tutorials as well as advanced tutorials for students and for teachers. edx.adobe.com is for teachers. helpx.adobe.com is for everyone. bit.ly/Adobe edu-events is where you can keep up to date with the wide range of professional learning sessions we run for the Asia Pacific region. If you would like to keep regularly up to date with the world of Adobe in education for the Australasia region, join the Australasian Adobe Education Community Facebook group. This is a great way to keep in touch with events and programs run by the Adobe in Education team. Adobe also have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. It is packed with great clips, including the amazing 1-minute Learn How to Make It with Creative Cloud videos that provide great inspiration about what is possible to make with Adobe tools. Have you ever considered becoming an Adobe Education Leader, the highest level of Adobe's education leadership community? The first step is to apply to join the Adobe Creative Educators program via this link. This is a program for educators from all sectors and curriculum areas who are not necessarily Adobe experts, but who are passionate about digital literacy and creativity. At Adobe, we are committed to helping all educators in all sectors and curriculum areas inspire and engage students in the learning process. We want to help teachers to empower the next generation to be lifelong digital creators and problem solvers. There we go. Now I've added a couple of those links into the chat pod, just a couple more resources to highlight for you, which I'll also bring into the chat pod if I can. I do want to emphasize the Creative Educators program. We're actually launching this next month. So it's a very new program. You may have heard of the Adobe Campus Leader program. Campus Leader program is now being folded and being replaced by this program. And you may have heard of the Adobe Education Leaders program. That's the highest level of our leadership program. This is kind of like a stepping stone to becoming an Adobe Education Leader. But if you're just interested in digital creativity, you don't have to be an Adobe expert at all. Let me encourage you to join this program and to be part of that network, which is an awesome international network. The Education Exchange, it's going to make sure you've got access to that link, because we now have well over 800,000 teachers on this resource, and it is really valuable, and there's so much in there, and it's just a matter of working out what's relevant to you and what's going to work for you, because with 800,000 teachers, there's likely to be some sort of support network there for you to help you. We've got a whole range of resources now called the Adobe Distance Learning Resources, which every week we're adding to, particularly with a focus on online teaching and learning. And that's been really helpful for those of us who have had to teach online. The Adobe Help Center was mentioned in that video. This is for students and for teachers. It's a one-stop shop to get any sort of support or help at all with any of our applications. And that's really valuable for you. I've got a whole set of tutorials called Adobe Edu Tips, and I'm just going to jump into that link and bring it into the chat pod too. The most recent one I just uploaded last Friday, and that's on Premiere Rush. The rest of them are on Character Animator or on Photoshop or on Spark, and they're just going to a bit more depth than what we did today. And it's a lovely little resource of me teaching you how to use the products for students and for teachers. And I think I'm promoting, and every Wednesday night, including tonight at 6:30, we go live to air with our show, our Inject Creativity live events. The first one, 6:30 till 7 o'clock, is a chat show with a prominent educator. And tonight we've got Brett Kent from New South Wales Department of Education. He's a primary teacher and he's amazing. And Stephen Colbert, many of you might know Stephen. He's at Brunswick Secondary College, and he's become quite well known in the media recently. A number of comments. So we're going to have a chat with him. And then at 7 o'clock, we jump into this very Blue Jeans room that you're in now for what we call the Deeper Dive show every Wednesday night. In fact, let me just grab the link to that so that you can get more information about it. And if you want to join us either tonight or next Wednesday or any Wednesday leading up to about the 23rd of September, we're going to be running these shows. And who knows, we might even go a bit longer than that. The reason why I said the 23rd of September is because we have our summit coming up then. And let me just grab the URL for that, because this is now open to any teacher at all. So please share this with your colleagues and with your wider networks, because it's now an online event. Normally we all go to Sydney. All the Adobe Education leaders go to Sydney and we meet together and we just learn from each other. But this time it's an online event for obvious reasons, and we're connecting with AELs from America, and it's going to be an awesome day. The first day is just for AELs, the second day is for any teacher, and then the third day is for Adobe Creative Educators and our Adobe Education Leader community. They're the main resources. We're just about out of time, so there's my journal if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about the work that I do and the work that happens with Adobe in education. Just post that into the chat pod for you. And all of the slides that I've published for you today are available on this link. So let me grab that link. And there's a QR code there for you as well.
So, Tim, it's Kev here, the manager of DLTV.
G'day, Kev. Just bringing that.
Yeah, how are you going? So I just want to say thanks so much for tonight. A fantastic webinar as usual. I don't know if there's still 21 people on the call, but Tim has been recognised by DLTV for his work, and we gave an award recently, and congratulations with that. He's been a fantastic partner with DLTV. But another great webinar. Really, really appreciate it, Tim. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Kev. Thanks for joining us. So, folks, we're just about at the top of the hour. Look forward to maybe catching up with you guys another time. I'm going to stop the recording now. I'm happy to hang around for a few more minutes if anyone wants to have a chat. But please get in contact and join our community, get involved in Spark, and most importantly, keep being creative.